I'm going to play a little part of this. This has happened in 2011. I walked into Starbucks and I told Chris, the manager, hey, I'll bet you $1 million Alex over there draws a picture of me with an image of a dead sheep on my face. Dead sheep on my face. And Chris looked at me like I'd lost my damn mind. He was like, what the hell are you smoking? And I said, nothing. I'll bet you $1 million Alex draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on my face. And Chris was like, okay, I'll take it. A week and a half later, I went in there, and that's exactly what happened. And so anyway, so I'm going to give you this little testimony that I did. And you can go find this on YouTube. It's called the Nike Dead Sheep Testimony. It's on my YouTube channel. So it's all documented. And what I did is I took the manager Chris home to my house, many years later, and said, "Would you mind giving a testimony to what happened that day?" I walked into Starbucks and said, "That guy's going to draw a picture of me with a dead sheep with its tongue sticking out," and I was right. And then I got to talk to the angel of the bottomless pit right in the middle of Starbucks. I got the testimony right here.
So all those years we had to hear over and over about Jonathan making some off-the-wall bet with Chris, the manager of Starbucks. That JJ bet him $1 million that Alex would draw a picture of his head, and when he did, he was going to draw a dead sheep on it. I mean, that's exactly what we've been hearing all these years.
I got the testimony right here.
But as it turns out, yet again, it would seem that Kleck has taken a little under-the-table liberty with Chris's testimony. Now hasn't he? Especially seeing how Chris never admits to hearing those words coming from your mouth, Jonathan.
And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of it.
I got the testimony right here.
Gotcha.
Okay, now right there. Now, can you imagine? Just when I went into Starbucks and I told Chris, the manager, I said, "Hey, I'll bet you $1 million Alex draws a picture of me," and when he does, he draws a picture of me with a dead sheep on my face. A dead sheep on my face. Like the KUIU camouflage, where they have a bug superimposed over a dead sheep, like the Vatican, that is a big bug harvesting a dead sheep, a bunch of angels that turn into a dead sheep. I mean, so if I go into a Starbucks and I say that guy's going to draw a picture of me with a dead sheep on my face, what would that make him?
So what exactly do you mean, Jonathan, when you're asking the question of, so what would that make him? Because I know the answer if you're really wanting to know the answer, JJ. So to your question of what would that make him, I'd have to say the answer to that is that makes Alex yet just one more character in some made-up story that you keep throwing out there year after year. And it's about time that we put this dead sheep drawn on your face story to bed as well, 'cause it's not the truth. Look at that, JJ. November 11th, 2022. And you're still trying to push Chris, the manager, out there in the limelight as some type of proof that somebody who worked at Starbucks was going to draw a picture of you, and when he did, he was going to include a dead sheep on your face as well. I mean, Jonathan even says that he bet Chris $1 million that Alex was going to offer to draw a picture of JJ, and when he did, he was going to include a dead sheep drawn on it as well.
You see this? This is a picture of me that a guy named Alex did at Starbucks. Most of y'all have seen this testimony. I went into Starbucks. I told Chris, who was a manager friend, I said, "Chris, I'll bet you $1 million Alex over there draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me. And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me."
He'll even tell everybody to go and watch some video that he put out called the Nike Dead Sheep Testimony, where Kleck keeps offering this video as some type of proof that what he said was true or not. So he drags Chris back to his house so he can offer up his testimony, in video format, as to what happened that day in Starbucks. And Jonathan even says it on the video for everybody to hear, that we're to take Chris's testimony and line it up with his and see whether or not that they jive.
Chris used to do camera, and Chris used to do a lot of the videos with me. The point of Chris's testimony is so we have a witness, or I'm going to use Chris as a witness. That way you don't have to believe me. You can believe his testimony and see if it matches what I told you. That way you don't have to believe me. You can believe his testimony and see if it matches what I told you.
But we have a big problem here, JJ, when we do that. Because the stories don't jive, Jonathan. We've got a problem. It seems that Chris here, your number one witness to this whole deal, it turns out that Chris has no recollection at all that you told him that Alex was going to draw a dead sheep on you. Only that he was going to draw a picture of you. And that's it. And yet again, what you're going to see is Jonathan Kleck adding to and wildly embellishing another story. Then he lines up this whole dead sheep testimony thing with his old cameraman Chris. Chris is totally clueless about any mention at all of some dead sheep, yet Kleck shamelessly promotes it as being 100% no-lying truth. I don't know about all that, JJ. Maybe we should let everybody else make up their own minds. I'll just reveal to them what you've been concealing in order to make it a little more fair, and then we'll see what happens, when people get to see the entire story. Now, this isn't meant to be some kind of knock on Chris's intelligence here. I don't know anything about the man, but according to Jonathan, it was only a week and a half earlier that Chris was told this big revelation.
I told Chris, the manager, hey, I'll bet you $1 million Alex over there draws a picture of me with an image of a dead sheep on my face. And Chris looked at me like I'd lost my damn mind. He was like, what the hell are you smoking? And I said, nothing. I'll bet you $1 million Alex draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on my face. And Chris was like, okay, I'll take it. A week and a half later, I went in there, and that's exactly what happened.
So how in the world could Chris have forgotten something so huge that soon?
A week and a half later, I went in there, and that's exactly what happened.
JJ even described Chris as looking at him as if he were smoking something when he made that ridiculous bet. And then JJ says that Chris took the bet. The dead sheep on the head bet. The very same screwball bet that somebody should never be able to forget. At least you would think. But for some reason, it only took our friend here, Chris, it only took him 10 measly days to forget the biggest prophetic utterance that JJ's turned him on to in a long while. Now, how in the world is that even possible? So then, for the next part, what I'm going to show you is a video that I posted on May 15th, 2022. It was called Chris Never Did Recall the Dead Sheep on the Head Testimony. Kleck put those words in his mouth. Yeah, I know. Real catchy title there, Gene. It's no wonder you only have 323 views after 5 months. With a view count like that, I'm going to have to go ahead and pretty much agree with Kleck. Basically, that this is a worthless and pathetic channel. 323 views. But once again, I think that we're going to have Johnny coming to the rescue. Yep, coming to bail my sorry-ass channel out one more time. And for that, I thank you, Johnny. I am so appreciative. The way you casually worked that story back into the forefront again, about that $1 million dead sheep on your head bet.
When I went into Starbucks and I told Chris, the manager, I said, hey, I'll bet you $1 million Alex draws a picture of me. And when he does, he draws a picture of me with a dead sheep on my face. A dead sheep on my face.
Yeah, it wasn't much. You didn't say much about it at all. But you being one of those fancy YouTube lawyers, you should know that as soon as you even start to open that door up, just a crack, I'm going to start driving my semi right through the barriers, and I'm going to introduce a whole buttload of evidence that you're going to once again hate seeing. But I'm sorry, JJ. You brought this upon yourself. Because if you won't start telling these people both sides of the story so that they can have an informative decision, you've pretty much left me no other choice, JJ. No other choice but to keep exposing what I can when I can. Actually, this next part was made over 2 years ago, but it never was included in whatever I was working on at the time, and it ended up on what's known as the Cutting Room Floor playlist. But this time when I put it up, it's going to have a lot more context than it did the last time that I just plopped it out there. And that's not the only clip that I'm going to include today, because I'm going to include portions of the video called Jonathan, Who Are These People You Lie Of? And that part of the video today is going to deal with Alex's story a little deeper. You know, JJ, for the newbies that you've been recruiting. Let's do it for the newbies. Let's keep them all up to date on your story. So let me press play, and we'll try to dream of what Johnny will say to explain it away, because it's not going to happen. Here we go. Okay, everybody. The video is already finished and rendered. It was supposed to end right here, but I made a decision to pull it back and re-edit it when I ran across some old footage that I'd forgotten about. It was a video from June 2nd, 2013, about a year and a half after Kleck and that Alex character had their words back and forth, and it was said that Alex drew a picture of JJ with a dead sheep on his head. Well, this video, it features Chris, somebody who was supposedly the manager of the Starbucks at the time. As well, he was Kleck's cameraman and confidant for a few years prior to this interview. Now, I'm not by any means going to show you the entirety of any of it, but we'll show you a portion of the clips and, let you see the title so that you can look it up and discover all that stuff on your own.
Okay guys, here we go. Chris used to do camera, and Chris used to do a lot of the videos with me. The point of Chris's testimony is, so we have a witness, or I'm going to use Chris as a witness. That way you don't have to believe me. You can believe his testimony and see if it matches what I told you.
So the event that I'm going to just share my perspective, what I saw.
But before we go any further here, I want it to be known, especially to all those Kleckies out there who are going to start accusing me of splicing JJ's video. No, before you go casting stones at me, you might want to go and watch the original video from JJ's channel. Because believe me when I say that video was already diced and spliced long before I seen it.
The event that I'm going to just share my perspective, what I saw, and what I experienced from my vantage point on November 25th of 2011. But I have to back up a little before that. So the event that we're talking about is on November 25th, 2011. I'd say, I don't know, by then Johnny and I had been hanging out quite a bit. We were friends and doing a lot of stuff together. Probably a few, I don't know, it could be weeks or it could be even
About a week and a half maybe.
Yeah, it was a while, because I remember thinking the event, but I'll get to that. I don't want to jump in. And he came in, and that's actually where we met, and a lot of you already know what it is, but for this case, I'm just trying to be safe. So he'd come in and said, one of my coworkers, he pointed him out to me and said, that guy right there is going to draw a picture of me. I guarantee you. I'll bet you $1 million. Those are Johnny's words. I bet you $1 million he's going to draw a picture of me.
Did I mention what was going to be on the picture?
I don't remember exactly if you mentioned what would be on it, but you did. Clearly what stuck out was like,
Dead sheep on my face.
well, that he's going to draw a picture of me.
That was rather interesting if you ask me, because you always have JJ, when he's retelling this particular story, you'll always have him saying that he told Chris that Alex was going to draw a picture of him and that he was going to put a dead sheep on it.
I said, Chris, I'll bet you $1 million Alex over there draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me.
And Chris looked at me like I'd lost my damn mind. He was like, what the hell are you smoking? And I said, nothing. I'll bet you $1 million Alex draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on my face. And Chris was like, okay, I'll take it. A week and a half later, I went in there, and that's exactly what happened.
However, here, we can hear JJ leading the witness by telling him about the dead sheep.
Clearly what stuck out was like,
Dead sheep on my face.
well, that he's going to draw a picture of me.
But Chris doesn't recall that part of the conversation. Chris said that the only thing that stuck out was that he was going to draw a picture of him.
Did I mention what was going to be on the picture?
I don't remember exactly if you mentioned what would be on it.
Now that's a pretty big part of this whole deal, isn't it? The dead sheep part?
And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me.
So did Kleck even tell Chris this part? I mean, think about it. just to say that somebody random is going to draw a picture of you, okay, that might seem odd, but it can't really be considered as something that's out of the norm. I mean, however, if you were to add the phrase with a dead sheep on it, don't you think that part should have been the first part that most stuck out as being unusual?
And I said, nothing. I'll bet you $1 million Alex draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on my face. And Chris was like, okay, I'll take it. A week and a half later, I went in there, and that's exactly what happened.
I don't remember exactly if you mentioned what would be on.
Why wouldn't Chris have remembered Kleck saying that part?
So, whether he said it or not, I don't know.
Let's substitute dead sheep for used condom. If Kleck told Chris that Alex was going to draw a picture of him with a used condom on his head, do you really think Chris would have said that he remembered him saying that he was going to draw a picture of him, but for some reason that used condom part escapes me?
So, whether he said it or not, I don't know.
I mean, there's a couple things that you would probably never associate with being on your head. One would be a dead sheep, and the other one would be a used condom. Of course you would remember if somebody used those words, in my humble opinion, of course. But according to Chris, he doesn't remember that part.
I'd sent the guy that Johnny said would draw a picture of him on break. Before I sent him on break, though, Johnny had come in. He'd come in with his son, and he was getting his normal order. He put it through, and the individual reached over, sort of from where he was, to stop Johnny and say, "Hey, man, I'm gonna draw." He said something like,
drew a picture.
"Yeah, I drew a picture. Or I'm gonna draw a picture of you." And I wasn't that close to it, but I was close enough to hear that.
So again, we see that JJ is up to speed on his lines, so that when we see Chris going off script, it's JJ to the rescue, and he feeds Chris his lines.
He said something like,
drew a picture.
"Yeah."
But even after he did, Chris still wasn't sure about what he was saying. He said, "I drew a picture of you," or "I was going to draw a picture of you."
He said something like,
drew a picture.
"Yeah, I drew a picture. Or I'm gonna draw a picture of you."
Well, which was it, Chris?
I drew a picture. Or I'm gonna draw a picture of you.
Or should we ask JJ?
He said something like,
drew a picture.
Yeah. And immediately I thought, whoa, that's random and weird, because I thought back to that point when Johnny said, "I bet you $1 million I'm going to draw a picture of you."
Okay, I'm going to stop it. I got two things real quick. I mean, you probably noticed that I sped the video up a little bit, but the only reason I did that is because Chris has that slow, I want to jump off a tall bridge if I have to keep listening to him cadence. So that's why I sped it up. And the second question is for you, JJ. Are you the one that made the command decision to add that extremely annoying music that we're forced to hear in the background? Is that supposed to help add some type of context or something? I mean, it's terrible. Alright, let's go on with it.
And the individual actually goes and sits down with Johnny after drawing a picture of Johnny. Would this be the picture? That would be the one. Sitting at a table, and they're a good 10 feet away. I can't really overhear what they're saying, but I do know what's running through my head is like, "You drew the picture. Oh my gosh." And I know Johnny's immediately going to be able to see everything.
So Chris was thinking, oh my gosh, he drew the picture, and he knows that Johnny's going to be able to see everything immediately.
"You drew the picture. Oh my gosh." And I know Johnny's immediately going to be able to see everything.
Immediately see everything what? What's he immediately going to see, Chris? From what I've been able to ascertain so far, you were oblivious to Kleck even telling you about the dead sheep.
Did I mention what was going to be on the picture?
I don't remember exactly if you mentioned what would be on it, but you did. Clearly what stuck out was like,
Dead sheep on my face.
well, that he's going to draw a picture of me.
So what exactly were you now privy to that you knew that Johnny was going to see immediately? His head? What? But you know what? I'm not going to subject anybody to any more of this video. I've shown you that it exists and where to find it. So if you're still interested in what most certainly should have been turned into some type of after-school special, by all means hop on over to JJ's channel and load it up and watch it. But it's getting hard for me to stomach any more of it. So all those years we had to hear over and over about Jonathan making some off-the-wall bet with Chris, the manager of Starbucks. That JJ bet him $1 million that Alex would draw a picture of his head, and when he did, he was going to draw a dead sheep on it. I mean, that's exactly what we've been hearing all these years. But as it turns out, yet again, it would seem that Kleck has taken a little under-the-table liberty with Chris's testimony. Now hasn't he? Especially seeing how Chris never admits to hearing those words coming from your mouth, Jonathan.
And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me.
However, here, we can hear JJ leading the witness by telling him about the dead sheep.
Clearly what stuck out was like,
Dead sheep on my face.
well, that he's going to draw a picture of me.
But Chris doesn't recall that part of the conversation. Chris said that the only thing that stuck out was that he was going to draw a picture of him.
Did I mention what was going to be on the picture?
I don't remember exactly if you mentioned what would be on it.
Now that's a pretty big part of this whole deal, isn't it? The dead sheep part?
And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me.
Not once did Chris say what you keep telling everybody he said. You made that up, JJ. So unless you can show me anywhere in that video of yours where Chris says that you told him Alex was going to draw a dead sheep on your face, I'm going to have to stick with my original claim of you telling stories yet again. Because you sure have a lot of demon action going on here that we're supposed to take for granted as being true. I mean, how could anybody doubt it, JJ? Especially after that casting out of demons from that lady on the crowded Metro bus. How is this big event with a demon at the crowded Starbucks, how is that any different from that big exorcism you conducted at the crowded bus?
Peace be still, peace be still, peace be still, peace be still. And she started going, ha, 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 ha. And Coke started running down her chin, and she had like a V-neck like this. And so it started running down onto her boobs and onto her bra. And I was like, and I was seeing, she was this close to me. She was like this far away. And she was going, ha, ha, ha. She goes, how is your struggle with Jesus Christ? Well, so she's rocking this way in front of me, right? And I'm looking at the side of her face, and she's going, how is your struggle with Jesus Christ? And I'm thinking, who in the hell is she talking to? And then she goes, how is your struggle? And she starts coming over the bench at me. There's a little wall right there, like a little rail. And she's like, how is your struggle with Jesus Christ? And she comes over at me. And I just put my hand up on her. And I put my hand on her shoulder and I say, peace, be still.
Does anybody else find it a little odd that each one of these stories seem to have a whole bunch of people around that JJ says were witnessing everything go down? At least a couple dozen, I'd say, and that's being pretty conservative if you ask me. But there's always that one common denominator in almost every one of Kleck's stories. And that common denominator, it always seems to be that Kleck is the only actual witness to any of it. And he makes it sound like there's a lot of witnesses that would back him up too. But that's because he acted out their parts as he was telling you the story. Yeah, when you get right down to it, almost every one of his tall tales can only be confirmed by Kleck, and Kleck only.
Well, I thought it was a very lovely story, and you tell it so well, with such enthusiasm.
And what about the infamous Alex from Starbucks? The one we heard about a gazillion times. The one who supposedly drew a dead sheep on the back of Kleck's head and then said, do you know who you're talking to?
You see this? This is a picture of me that a guy named Alex did at Starbucks. Most of y'all have seen this testimony. I went into Starbucks. I told Chris, who was a manager friend, I said, Chris, I'll bet you $1 million Alex over there draws a picture of me, and when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me. And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me.
Where's he? Did he die or something? I mean, you always say that you document everything. You say you document everything, Kleck.
Well, thank God I document everything. So I have photographic, pictorial, and video evidence to show you everything I tell you is 100% true.
I went in there a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, and Alex would always go, "Hey, Johnny, how you doing?" Just like Barack Obama and Miley Cyrus.
So did you ever go back to Starbucks with a camera to see if maybe you could interview this demon who possessed your friend? I mean, does he still work at Starbucks? Does he even have a last name that you could give us? Give us something here, Kleck. You know, so that maybe other people could go and try to corroborate your story.
You know, like when I walk into Starbucks and they wink their eye and stick out their tongue at me and they draw a picture of me with a dead sheep and they don't think I'm going to see it. But as soon as I do see it and I say, "Hey, why'd you put the dead sheep behind my ear, Alex?"
Do you know who you're speaking with?
Yeah, I know who I'm speaking with. Do you know who you're speaking with?
You see, JJ's getting serious now. Starting to crack his knuckles and everything. He's ready to fight.
And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me.
Clearly what stuck out was like,
Dead sheep on my face.
well, that he's going to draw a picture of me.
But Chris doesn't recall that part of the conversation. Chris said that the only thing that stuck out was that he was going to draw a picture of him.
Did I mention what was going to be on the picture?
I don't remember exactly if you mentioned what would be on it.
Now that's a pretty big part of this whole deal, isn't it? The dead sheep part?
And when he does, he puts an image of a dead sheep on the picture he draws of me.
Then I said, "You know what the message is, don't you?" And then he looked very melancholy and he looked down at the ground and he acknowledged yes. And then I leaned over the table and I went,
The message is, your time is up. And I went, and he went, and his vein stuck out. It was like, and he's like, he's like gonna freak out. And I saw it. And so when I went, your time is up, he went, and there was a pin on the center of the table. And I saw his eyes, and I'm like, he's going for the pin. I got some distance back because I knew it was coming. I was right. He grabbed the pin, but he didn't try and stick it in my neck. So anyway, so he grabbed the pin. He started drawing real fast. And oddly enough, he drew the Kobe Bryant attack fast ad a month before it was ever released to the public. Clay and I were like, what the hell?
because Satan knows what he's going to do. He knows what's up. He's the God of this world.
You're right, JJ. Satan does know what he's going to do. And I do believe that he's the one whispering all these sweet nothing prophecies and predictions in your ear.
Okay, so anyway, so there I am in Starbucks. Some kid has drawn a picture of me. I just showed it to you with a dead sheep on my face. I told the manager he would do it. He did it. That's very prophetic, don't you think? That's very prophetic, don't you think?
You know, Jonathan, I don't know how many times I've heard you say that it never matters when or where you are. There's always people coming up to you and sticking their tongues out and winking their eyes or baaing at you like a sheep.
And all kinds of people. Man, I'm not kidding. I went to the airport the other day to drop my son off. I had 3 people that I had to interact with that looked at me and went. I was like, I have people wink at me all the time.
People were winking at me like I was like, I mean, it was insane. The winks that I was getting from people at the health club, at the grocery store, and other places. I was like, what in the hell? That's insane.
But you never seem to be able to catch any of these instances on video for some reason. Not even the store security cameras. Nothing. You said it happens to you all the time.
I have people wink at me all the time.
You should have a bunch of personal video by now of all these instances. But it always seems like we have to accept that you say it happens all the time, but then you pull out the same old tired pictures of Justin Bieber or Miley Cyrus with their tongues sticking out winking. But for some reason, I don't know, I guess because Bono's so cool, you never put his pictures up there. You like him. I mean, I'd like to see some actual proof that actually lines up with the amount of times that you say this happens to you.
Do you believe that? I'd say prove it, Clark.
Now, we've seen you walking through Walmart. We've seen you as the man out on the street when you're pointing out all these man-made items that if you turn them upside down and squint real hard, you can kind of see something that might look like something. Maybe. We see a lot of passerby traffic on the sidewalks. But not once have I ever seen some demon sneak up on you and start asking you about your struggles in some growly voice, and then popping out their tongues and shutting one of their eyeballs up. Not one time, JJ. Hell, you were just in the Salvation Army store the other day with your newest live-in maid, Corey, and I didn't see you have to interact with anybody who might even be a little bit possessed. Except for maybe Corey. Or when you bought that watch the other day, and the girl who sold it to you, she had that cross tattoo on her arm. Boy, you sure did act quick when you seen that baby, didn't you? Yeah, you whipped that camera out and started taking pictures of that lady's arm pronto. But how's about her winking satanic face, JJ? Did you get a picture of that? Because you know that with a tattoo like that, she would have had to have been hungry and wanted to eat Johnny for dinner. But apparently she wasn't, was she? She must have already been inverted, eh, Johnny? Or else she would have went off on your ass, just like all those other demon-possessed stories you tell. Man, does anybody see a trend forming here? You should. Or times like this with Alex, where he's going full-blown demon on you, to the point where you think that he's going to stab you in the neck with a pen. So you got to back up real quick so you can counter-maneuver, you say.
And so when I went, your time is up, he went, shh, and there was a pin on the center of the table, and I saw his eyes, and I'm like, he's going for the pin. I got some distance back because I knew it was coming.
And this is all supposedly happening right in the middle of a franchise coffee house. Did that particular Starbucks make you drink your coffee in cubicles or something to where nobody's allowed to look at you? Nobody else but you has any proof. And the kicker is, you still don't have any proof.
Here's another picture somebody else did of me named Marcel. He put a dead sheep on the top of my head right here and a goat on the back of my head right here. He had a serpent with the tail wrapped around me and the serpent consuming me.
And this Marcel character, who the hell is he? Do you have a picture of him? Or maybe we could, contact him or maybe get his side of the story? Because that's all we got to go on right now, JJ, is a flimsy story where you're jutting around acting all tough like you're taking on Satan in some type of cage match with all your grunting and growling. But still, no witnesses. So does everybody see what I'm getting at? Kleck said he knew that Alex was going to draw a dead sheep on his head because he would always go into that particular Starbucks and Alex would always greet him with his tongue sticking out while he was winking his eye. According to how many people you say that do that to you, JJ, there should be enough sheep-drawn Johnny heads floating around to staple up on every telephone pole in Texas. You're a supposed connoisseur of the word there, JJ, so what does the word always mean to you? It means every time, right? But like I keep saying, this is one of the most integral parts of your evidence to date, and you never once took a picture of this Alex character? Not once. And you kept going back day after day after day, but not one time did it ever occur to you to bring a camera with you. I mean, this wasn't some random occasion, JJ. Like you were camping out in the middle of the woods and while you were taking a leak behind a tree, Bigfoot just happened to walk out and you couldn't get to your camera quick enough. No, this was an everyday occurrence between you and some demon-possessed worker at Starbucks. I mean, wasn't there even an employee of the month picture hanging up on the wall there that you could ask your friend Chris, the manager, if you could borrow it for a while and maybe make a copy or something? Something. Does anybody else think that JJ squandered a golden opportunity for some good demon footage? But hey, at least we got this picture to show for it, right? A picture that apparently anybody could have drawn, and apparently anybody did draw it. And I'm just curious, JJ, if you had stuck your head from behind that tree and Bigfoot just happened to notice you, do you think he would have winked and stuck his tongue out? I'm just curious.
There I am in Starbucks. Some kid has drawn a picture of me. I just showed it to you with a dead sheep on my face. I told the manager he would do it. He did it. That's very prophetic, don't you think? That's very prophetic, don't you think? That's very prophetic, don't you think? Don't you think?